My parents banned me from their anniversary party, then my sister posted a photo. I thought being excluded hurt the most, but when I saw that photo, everything I believed about my family shattered in an instant. The invitation that never came. You know that moment when you realize you're not part of something and everyone else knew it except you? That's exactly how I felt when I found out my parents were celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary with a big party, and I wasn't invited. Let me paint the picture for you. I'm 28 years old. I've always been the responsible one in the family. The one who called every week, showed up for Sunday dinners, remembered birthdays without needing a Facebook reminder. My younger sister, Emma, she was different. The golden child. Shut the one who could do no wrong even when she did everything wrong. She moved to the city right after college, barely visited, and when she did, it was like watching a celebrity grace us with her presence. But me, I stayed close. I helped Dad fix the roof last summer. I spent hours with Mom going through old photo albums when she felt nostalgic. I thought we had that kind of bond, the real kind, built on showing up, not just looking good in pictures. So when I casually asked Mom about their anniversary plans 3 weeks before the date, I expected to hear about the party, maybe even be asked to help organize it. Instead, she went quiet. That uncomfortable kind of quiet, where you can actually hear someone choosing their words carefully. "Oh, we're keeping it small this year," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Just a quiet dinner." Nothing fancy. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? These were my parents. The people who raised me, who taught me that family comes first, who always said honesty was the foundation of trust. I actually felt relieved that I wouldn't have to stress about organizing anything or buying an expensive gift. But then 2 days before their anniversary, I ran into Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store. She was my parents' neighbor and had known our family for decades. She smiled warmly and said, "I'm so excited for your parents' party this weekend. Your mother showed me the venue photos. It looks absolutely beautiful. You must be so proud to have planned such a special celebration for them." I froze. The carton of milk in my hand suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Miss Patterson kept talking about the elegant decorations, the catering, the live band. Each word felt like a small knife cutting into something I didn't even know could bleed. I managed to smile. I nodded. I said something generic like, "Yeah, it's going to be great," and then I walked away, leaving half my groceries behind because I couldn't breathe properly in that store anymore. A party, a big, elegant party with a venue, catering, and a live band, and I wasn't invited. I sat in my car in that grocery store parking lot for 20 minutes, just staring at my phone. My hands were shaking. Part of me wanted to call my mom immediately and demand answers. The other part, the part that was already aching, was afraid of what those answers might be. Finally, I called. Mom picked up on the third ring, her voice cheerful and light. "Hi." Sweetheart, what's up?" "I ran into Mrs. Patterson today," I said quietly. No point dancing around it. The silence on her end was deafening. Then a sigh. Oh, that's all you have to say?" My voice cracked despite my best effort to stay calm. "Mom, why wasn't I invited to your anniversary party? Mrs. Patterson knew about it. The whole neighborhood probably knows, but your own daughter found out from a stranger in the grocery store. Honey, it's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it for me." Another pause. I could hear Dad's voice in the background asking who was on the phone. Mom must have walked into another room because suddenly it got quieter. When she spoke again, her tone had changed, defensive, guarded. "Your father and I decided that this party should be drama-free, which we wanted to enjoy our special day without any tension." "Drama-free?" I repeated, completely lost. "What drama? When have I ever caused drama? It's not about you specifically. It literally is about me, Mom. I'm the one not invited." She exhaled sharply, and I could practically see her pinching the bridge of her nose the way she did when she was frustrated. "Look, Emma's worked really hard to organize this party. She's flying in from the city, she's coordinated everything, and she specifically asked that we keep the guest list to people who wouldn't create any conflict." Conflict with who? I was genuinely confused now. With her and Brad. Brad. Emma's boyfriend of 6 months who I'd met exactly once at a family dinner where he spent the entire time talking about his crypto investments and barely acknowledged anyone else's existence. I hadn't even said anything negative about him. I'd smiled, nodded, made polite conversation, and moved on with my life. "What are you talking about? I've been nothing but nice to Brad." Emma said you gave him judgmental looks throughout that dinner, that you made him feel unwelcome. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd I didn't know how else to respond. Judgmental looks? Mom, I barely looked at him. I was polite. I was kind. This is insane. This is exactly the kind of reaction that makes things difficult, Mom said, her voice cooling even more. Emma's trying to build a life, and she doesn't need negativity. So I'm negativity now? The hurt in my voice was impossible to hide anymore. I'm the daughter who shows up, who helps, who cares, and I'm negativity? It's just one party, sweetheart. Don't make this bigger than it is. But it wasn't just one party. It was what the party represented. It was the fact that my sister, who barely called them, could swoop in and make decisions about who belonged in our family and who didn't. It was the fact that my parents, my own parents, went along with it. I have to go, I whispered, and I hung up before she could respond. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there staring at the dashboard, wondering when exactly I'd become the expendable one. The day of the anniversary party was a Saturday. And I woke up knowing exactly what was happening that evening and knowing I had no place in it. It was the strangest feeling, being excluded from something so important while life just continued normally everywhere else. I tried to distract myself. I cleaned my apartment. I went for a run. I called my best friend Maya and told her everything. She was furious on my behalf, which felt validating and painful at the same time. She offered to come over and spend the evening with me, but I told her I was fine. I wasn't fine, but I didn't want to admit how much this was destroying me. Around 6 in the evening, right about when the party would be starting, I made a decision I'm not proud of. I logged onto Instagram, searched for Emma's profile, and waited. I knew she'd post something. She always did. Every event, every moment, every carefully curated piece of her life ended up on social media with the perfect caption and the perfect filter. I told myself I wouldn't look. But the truth is, I'd been telling myself that all day, and here I was, phone in hand, refreshing her page like some kind of masochist who couldn't stop pressing on a bruise. At 7:47 p.m., she posted. It was a carousel of photos. The first showed my parents at a beautifully decorated venue, all soft lighting and elegant floral arrangements. They looked happy, genuinely happy. Mom was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, emerald green, stunning against her skin. Dad had his arm around her, smiling that proud smile he used to give me when I graduated college. I swiped to the next photo. Emma and Brad, posing with champagne glasses, looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine. And another swipe? Extended family members I recognized? Aunts, uncles, cousins, all dressed up, all celebrating. My chest tightened. Every photo was another reminder that I wasn't there, that I wasn't wanted. But then I swiped to the 5th photo and everything stopped. It was a group shot, one of those big family photos where everyone crowds together, arms around each other, smiling at the camera. My parents were in the center. Emma and Brad stood right beside them, and surrounding them were all the relatives, all the family friends, all the people who supposedly mattered. But that's not what made me freeze. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable once you noticed it, was a banner, a large printed banner that read, "Congratulations, Brad and Emma, on your engagement." I stared at that photo for a full minute, not breathing, not blinking, just staring. This wasn't just my parents' anniversary party, it was Emma's engagement party. She'd used our parents' 30th anniversary, their milestone, their celebration, as the backdrop for her own engagement announcement. And my parents had gone along with it. They'd let her turn their special day into her moment. And I'd been excluded so I wouldn't ruin it with my so-called negativity. The caption under the photos read, "The perfect night celebrating 30 years of love, Sulpas, and the beginning of our own forever. So grateful to family for making this night magical. Hashtag engaged, hashtag family first, hashtag anniversary surprise, family first." Those words burned. I read through the comments, dozens of congratulations, heart emojis, exclamation points, relatives gushing about how beautiful Emma looked. How romantic the surprise was, how perfect everything seemed. Not one person asked where I was, not one person noticed I was missing. I sat there on my couch, phone still in my hand, and something inside me shifted. The hurt didn't disappear. It actually got worse, but it was joined by something else, clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a choice. Emma had orchestrated this entire thing, turned our parents' anniversary into her engagement party, and pushed me out because she knew I'd see right through it. She knew I'd call it what it was, selfish and manipulative. And my parents, they'd chosen her narrative over my presence. I wasn't the problem. I was just the person who refused to pretend everything was perfect when it wasn't. And that made me dangerous to the illusion they were all so desperate to maintain. For 2 days, I didn't contact anyone in my family. Not my parents, not my sister, not even the relatives who'd been at the party. I ignored my mom's single text message that said, "Hope you had a nice weekend, sweetie," as if nothing had happened, as if I was supposed to just continue pretending. Instead, I spent those 2 days thinking, really thinking, about years of being the dependable one, the one who showed up, the one who adjusted and accommodated and made space for everyone else's feelings while mine got dismissed. I thought about every time Emma got praised for the bare minimum while I got criticized for not doing enough. And I thought about every family event where her absence was excused with, "She's just so busy," while my boundaries were labeled as difficult. I thought about the narrative they'd all built, where she was the golden child who could do no wrong, and I was, what, the forgettable one, the convenient one. I wasn't angry in the explosive way you see in movies. I was angry in the quiet, calculated way that comes when you finally realize you've been undervalued for so long that you forgot your own worth. On Monday evening, I opened my laptop and started drafting a post. Not for Instagram. I wasn't interested in their public, curated world. I wrote an email, a long, detailed, emotionally honest email, and I sent it to every single family member who'd been at that party. The subject line read about the anniversary party I wasn't invited to. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I simply told the truth. I explained how I'd found out about the party, how I'd been told it was a small dinner when it was actually a large celebration, how I discovered through a photo that it doubled as Emma's engagement party. I laid out years of feeling sidelined, of being the one who showed up only to be treated like I was disposable. I explained that I wasn't writing this to create drama, but because I was done pretending this was normal or acceptable. Then I ended with this. I love our family, but I can't be part of a family that treats my presence as optional and my feelings as inconvenient. I hope you all can understand that sometimes the person who walks away isn't the one giving up. They're the one finally choosing themselves. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The responses started coming within hours. My Aunt Linda was the first. She called me directly, her voice thick with emotion. "Sweetheart, I had no idea you weren't invited intentionally. I thought maybe you couldn't make it. I'm so sorry. This isn't right." My Uncle Tom sent a text. "You've always been there for everyone. This was wrong, and I'm ashamed I didn't notice you were missing. I'm here if you need to talk." Then my cousin Rachel replied, "Emma told us you were too busy with work to come. She said you'd already sent your regrets. I can't believe she lied." One by one, family members reached out. Some were apologetic. Some were shocked. Some admitted they'd felt something was off but didn't want to cause conflict by asking questions. The truth was spreading, and the perfect image Emma had crafted was cracking. My parents called on Tuesday night, both of them on speakerphone. Mom's voice was strained. Dad sounded uncomfortable. They asked if we could talk in person. I agreed, but only on my terms. We met at a neutral coffee shop the next day. Mom looked smaller somehow. Dad couldn't quite meet my eyes. We sat across from each other, coffee cups between us like a barrier. "We didn't realize how much this would hurt you," Mom started, her hands wrapped around her mug. "Emma said you two had grown apart, that you'd be fine with—" "Stop," I interrupted gently. "Just stop. Emma didn't make this decision alone. You both chose to exclude me. Yet you both chose to believe whatever she told you without even asking me how I felt. That's on you." Dad finally looked up. "We thought we were keeping the peace. By sacrificing me?" My voice was steady, but tears were threatening. "I've spent years keeping the peace, Dad. I've made myself smaller, quieter, more convenient, so everyone else could be comfortable. And it was never enough. Emma gets to take over your anniversary, lie to family about why I'm not there, and still be the golden child. I get excluded and told I'm the problem for being hurt. That's not—" Mom started, but her voice broke. "It is," I said softly. "And the worst part? I would have forgiven all of it if you'd just been honest. If you'd just said, Emma wants this and we're choosing her, at least then I'd know where I stood." We sat in silence for a long moment. If finally Dad spoke, his voice rough. "You're right. We were wrong. Both of us. We let Emma control the situation because it was easier than dealing with conflict. And you paid the price for that." Mom reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly. Can you forgive us? I looked at her hand but didn't take it. Not yet. I don't know, I answered honestly. I need time, and I need to see that things actually change. Not just words, actions. They nodded. We finished our coffee in uncomfortable silence. As we stood to leave, I said one more thing. I'm not cutting you out of my life, but I'm not going to be the only one making an effort anymore. If you want a relationship with me, you have to show up for it. 3 weeks have passed since that coffee shop conversation. Emma hasn't contacted me directly, though I heard through Aunt Linda that she's furious about my email, claiming I'm trying to ruin her engagement happiness. My parents have called twice. Actually initiated contact. Mom apologized again, more genuinely this time. Dad admitted he'd always known they favored Emma, but never thought it was that bad. Progress, I suppose. Small, painful progress. Some family members have taken sides. A few distant relatives accused me of being petty and jealous. But more people than I expected reached out with their own stories of feeling invisible in family dynamics, of being the dependable one who got taken for granted. It was validating in a sad way, realizing I wasn't alone in this experience. Even though I'd felt alone for so long, I'd be lying if I said I've completely healed. There are still moments when I see a family photo pop up on social media and feel that familiar ache. Moments when I wonder if I overreacted, if I should have just stayed quiet and kept the peace like I always had. But then I remember that photo, that engagement banner in the background, the way I'd been erased from a family moment as if I didn't matter. And I remember why I finally spoke up. Here's what I've learned through all of this. Sometimes the people who love you can still hurt you deeply, not because they're evil, but because they're flawed, because they take the easy path, because they don't realize what they're doing until someone forces them to see it. And when that happens, you have two choices. You can keep sacrificing yourself to maintain a false peace, or you can risk the discomfort of honesty for the chance at something real. I chose honesty. It cost me the illusion of a perfect family, but it gave me something more valuable, my self-respect. Revenge isn't always about grand gestures or watching people fall. Sometimes revenge is simply refusing to disappear quietly. Sometimes it's sending an email that tells the truth everyone was too comfortable to acknowledge. Sometimes it's choosing yourself when everyone else has chosen convenience. My parents are trying now, slowly, imperfectly, but they're trying. Emma and I, we haven't spoken. Maybe we will someday. Maybe we won't. I've made peace with either outcome because at the end of the day, I didn't need them to admit I was right. I just needed to stop waiting for permission to matter. Now, if you're reading this and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, ever felt like the one who gives and gives while everyone else takes, I want you to know something. Your feelings are valid. Your hurt is real. And you don't owe anyone your silence to make them comfortable. The people who truly love you will choose you even when it's inconvenient, even when it requires effort, even when it means confronting uncomfortable truths. And the ones who don't, they were never your people to begin with. I'm still rebuilding, still figuring out what family means to me now, but for the first time in years, I'm doing it on my own terms, with my own voice, refusing to be the footnote in someone else's story. And somehow, even with all the pain, that feels like freedom.